Am I the asshole for calling the police immediately when my sister's family broke into my new house with a stolen spare key? Hello, Reddit. I, 27F, feel like I've spent the majority of my life in the shadow of my older sister, Anna, 30F. She's always been the favorite. You know, the one, smart, social, and capable of charming her way out of any situation. Meanwhile, I've been called the irresponsible one, which in my family simply refer to the one who does all of the work but receives no credit. Growing up, Anna always had the best of everything. Her birthdays were large garden festivities complete with bounce castles and pony rides. A pizza party in the dining room featuring a cake from the grocery store bakery. Anna got the Barbie dream house for Christmas, whereas I got a second-hand counterfeit with a missing elevator. My parents would simply remark, "You don't need all that fancy stuff," or, "Be grateful for what you have." However, Anna's gratitude was never required in the same manner. The big separation occurred when I entered college. I had worked hard in high school, juggling AP classes and extracurricular activities to maintain a high GPA. I was admitted to a local university and believed I had a great plan. I'd commute from home to economize on dorm fees. Anna had attended her dream school, and my parents had funded everything. So I figured they'd benefit me, too. Wrong. When I mentioned my plan to live at home, my mother looked at me as if I had just suggested we relocate to Mars. "If you're staying here, you'll need to contribute," she added casually. Anna got a full ride from us because she deserved it. "You need to learn responsibility." I was 18 and preparing to enter college, and they were already talking about me paying rent. Contribute turned out to be $400 per month for rent and electricity, plus my personal groceries. That may not seem like much unless you're a broke college student working part-time at a bookstore for $9 per hour. I attempted to explain, reminding them that they had covered everything for Anna, that she had never had to worry about money at school. Mom simply shrugged. "We gave Anna what she needed," she stated. "You're different. You're independent. You'll figure it out." So I did. I worked as many hours as I could at the bookshop, occasionally skipping meals to make ends meet. Every morning, I would pass past the campus coffee shop, envious of the students who could purchase lattes and pastries while I brown-bagged PB&J sandwiches and drank free coffee from the bookstore break room. I never bought a textbook at full price. Everything was used or borrowed from the library. Every month I handed over the $400 to my parents while Anna was away at her out-of-state school, living in a brand new dorm that my parents had purchased for her. She contacted me once to complain about her dorm's AC not being chilly enough, and I almost lost it. I didn't have air conditioning in my automobile since I couldn't afford to fix it. My parents continued to send Anna money each month. I once overheard Mom on the phone saying, "We don't want her to struggle. College is difficult enough." I stood in the kitchen, clutching my $1 ramen noodles, wondering why none of that compassion was ever shown to me. To make matters worse, my parents were continually praising Anna for her accomplishments. She earned a 3.2 GPA in her communications department, and they threw her a lavish graduation party complete with a catered buffet and a DJ. When I graduated with a 3.9 and a computer science degree, we had a peaceful meal at home. Mom prepared lasagna and replied, "Well, we don't want to make a fuss." Looking back, I believe what stung the most was not the absence of financial assistance, but the apparent message that I didn't count as much. Anna was always portrayed as the star with potential, while I was just there. Even when I achieved it, it was overlooked. "Kate's smart. She doesn't need help," they'd say. It seemed like being capable was a curse. After college, I moved out as quickly as possible. I rented a little apartment near my first job and began living my life on my terms. It wasn't easy, but it felt great to be free of their expectations. I worked hard, lived frugally, and began saving. Meanwhile, Anna married Josh, 32 million, whom my parents adore, despite the fact that he's constantly changing jobs. They currently have 3 children, Sophia, 5F, Lucas, 4M, and baby Noah, 2M. My folks are continually bailing them out. When their automobile broke down last year, my parents handed them money to get a new one. When Anna complained about how difficult it was to keep up with 3 children, Mom and Dad offered to babysit on weekends. I wish it didn't bother me anymore, but it still does. No matter how much I do on my own, it seems like I'll always be second to Anna. That is why I no longer share many details about my life with my family. I know they wouldn't mind, not really. So, I've been keeping this quiet, but I recently decided it was time to start looking for a home. I had been renting this tiny flat for years, paying far too much for what was essentially a glorified shoebox. And I'd been saving for what seemed like forever. I ultimately came to the point where I thought, you know what, I deserve it. Now, here's the thing, I didn't inform my family. Not because it's a big secret, but because nothing with them can ever be solely about me. Everything becomes a group project. If I mentioned anything, I knew they'd start making it about Anna and her children, and how whatever I earned would help them in some way. So I decided it was easier to keep my lips shut until all was said and done. Apparently, that was overly hopeful. I'm not sure how this happened, but a woman I work with, let's call her Lisa, managed to let it slip. Lisa is one of those people who is always interested in what others are doing, and I believe she casually mentioned to someone that I was looking for a house. That person simply happened to be Anna's neighbor. From there, the news spread like wildfire. The delights of small-town Texas. A few days later, my mother contacted me. "Kate," she said, her tone excessively joyful. "Why didn't you tell us you're looking for a house?" I should have known better, but I chose to play dumb. "Oh, I'm just browsing around right now, nothing serious." Well, Anna and I have been talking, and we have some great ideas for you. I could sense dread creeping in. You're going to need something big enough for everyone, you know. At least 4 bedrooms, for the kids of course. What kids? I questioned. I don't have kids. She kept going as if this were the most regular thing in the world. You'll need space for Anna's family when they visit, and for us too. Oh, and it'd be great if it was close to Anna's place. I'm not sure why I was startled. She had already turned my potential house into the solution to their issues. I said something non-committal and hung up the phone as quickly as I could, thinking it was a one-time occurrence. But, oh dear, it wasn't. My mom and Anna began flooding me with house listings after that. I'm not exaggerating when I say it turned into a part-time job for them. Every day, I'd receive at least a dozen links to ludicrous houses, large homes with 4 or 5 bedrooms, pools, 3-car garages, and the works. It was as if they assumed I was looking for a reality TV mansion. One day, Mom texted, "Did you see that one on Maple Street? It's a huge one, just perfect." Another time, Anna emailed me a link to a 6-bedroom property with a remark that read, "This would be so suitable for us. We finally have space to spread out. United States." I stared at the message for a good minute, wondering how my property purchase had become a collaborative endeavor. What is the worst part? They were not even pretending it was about me. Every place they recommended was oriented toward Anna's family. This one has a finished basement. Josh could turn it into his man cave. The kids would love the pool in this one. Look, Kate. There's even a guest room for Mom and Dad when they visit. It was exhausting. At first, I attempted to gently lead them away, assuring them that I was only shopping for something modest for myself. But that simply made matters worse. That's when I decided to cease responding. I silenced the group chat and disregarded their messages. I assumed they would finally get the point and move on. Meanwhile, I continued searching for houses on my own. I spent my evenings reading through Zillow and my weekends looking at open houses. I didn't tell anyone where I was going, and I avoided anything slightly related to Anna's area. I didn't want to run into anyone who might tell my mother. After weeks of looking, I finally found it, a little 2-bedroom cottage just outside the city. It had everything I desired. A nice little porch, a sunny kitchen, and a lawn large enough for a garden. It wasn't elegant, but it felt familiar. The moment I stepped through the door, I knew it was mine. I submitted an offer, and after a few nerve-wracking days, it was approved. I can't even explain how fantastic it felt. For the first time in my life, I was doing something solely for myself, with no influence from anyone. Of course, I did not inform my family. I decided to let them keep delivering their helpful suggestions while I silently moved forward. But then my mother called me out of nowhere. "We're having dinner next weekend. You're coming, right?" I nearly said no. But then I had a thought. You know what? Let's get this over with. So I'm going to this dinner, and I already know what it will be like. They'll probably have a full PowerPoint presentation prepared. Here comes the fun part. I'm about to reveal that I've already purchased a home. I won't sugarcoat it either. I can already hear theatrical gasps and complaints. Thank you for sticking around. I'll send you an update after dinner. Update 1. First and foremost, I'd like to thank everyone who left comments and advice on my previous article. I promised to update you after dinner, so here we go. Buckle up, because there was a lot. So I arrived at my folks' place last Saturday at precisely 6 p.m., mentally prepared for whatever rubbish they were about to throw at me. The moment I went in, there was already commotion. The kids were shouting, Josh was sitting on the couch watching TV, and my mother was busy in the kitchen. She looked over and said, "Oh good, you're on time for once. We are off to a good start, right?" We sat down for supper and the conversation began with the normal small talk. Dad complained about gas prices, Josh about something at work, and Anna about how difficult it was to manage 3 children. Noah keeps waking up in the middle of the night, she explained, scooping mashed potatoes onto her plate. We're just so cramped. I feel like I'm losing my mind. I knew where this was going, but I played along, nodding sympathetically while concentrating on my lasagna. Then my mother cleared her throat in the manner she did before making an announcement. "Kate," she replied with a huge smile, "we've been talking, and we think we found the perfect house for you." I almost choked on my water. Of course, they'd arrived with a plan. "Oh?" I asked, keeping my tone as neutral as possible. "Yes," Anna chimed in. "It's a beautiful place, and it's only a few blocks from us. It has 5 bedrooms, a huge yard for the kids, and even a guest suite." Mom interrupted before I could respond. "It's perfect for everyone. There's enough space for the kids to finally have their own rooms, and Josh could even set up an office. Plus, it's in such a great neighborhood, close to good schools." I just stared at them, bewildered. They weren't even pretending it was about me anymore. "So," Anna replied, smiling as if everything was settled, "we can go see it tomorrow if you want." That's when I decided I'd had it. "Actually," I responded, setting down my fork. "I've already bought a house." The room went completely silent. Even the children stopped making noise. "What?" Mom asked, her voice harsh. "I bought a house," I reiterated. "It's a small, 2-bedroom cottage just outside the city. It's perfect for me." For a little moment, I considered whether they would be pleased for me. Mom's face turned red, and Anna's mouth virtually dropped to the floor. "A cottage?" Anna finally asked, her tone full of skepticism. "How are we supposed to fit in a cottage?" "You're not," I informed you, "because it's my house. I bought it for me." Mom stepped in before Anna could react. "Kate, how could you make such a big decision without consulting us? We've been working so hard to find the perfect place for you." "No," I replied, trying to maintain my cool. "You've been working hard to find the perfect place for Anna and her family. I didn't need your help. I knew what I wanted, and I bought it." Anna's voice became quite high-pitched, as if she were about to cry. But we need this, Kate. Do you know how hard it is for us in that tiny apartment? The kids have to share a room, and Noah's crib is in our bedroom. It's not fair to them. I took a big breath, hoping not to lose it. That's not my problem, Anna. I've worked hard to get to this point, and I'm not giving up my dream house to fix your situation. That's when Dad decided to join in. He smashed his hand upon the table. You're being selfish, Kate. Family is supposed to help each other. What's wrong with you? I stood up, my heart racing. I'm not selfish. I'm finally standing up for myself. And if that makes me the bad guy in your eyes, so be it. The place erupted into turmoil. Anna was crying. Mom was ranting about how she had raised me better. Dad was complaining about how dissatisfied he was. Josh sat there, stuffing food into his mouth as if nothing was occurring. I grabbed my handbag and went to the door. Mom pursued me, crying, "You can't just walk away from your family like this." I turned back and screamed, "Watch me." I then got into my car and drove home, shivering with rage and relief. Things have gotten out of hand in unexpected ways. My mother and Anna have both gone on full social media attack mode. Anna shared images of her children packed close on their bunk bed with remarks like, "All they want is a little space to grow, but I guess some people think family isn't worth helping anymore." People who didn't know the complete situation left remarks such as, "How could anyone be so heartless?" To make matters worse, someone, probably Lisa, saw these posts, and now half of my office is talking about how I abandoned my family. I'm attempting to maintain a positive attitude and concentrate on my work, but it's becoming increasingly difficult. I'm bracing myself for whatever comes next, but I'm confident I made the correct decision. This house is mine, and I will not back down. I'll provide an update if something significant occurs. Thank you so much for all of your help. You have no idea how much it has meant. Update 2, I've been going over your comments, and wow, you guys didn't hold back. Many of you expressed surprise at how entitled my family sounds, and believe me, I share your sentiments. Others shared their experiences with similar situations, and it's reassuring to know I'm not alone in this. So, things have taken an unexpected turn. My mother unexpectedly visited my apartment yesterday. She was standing there with an apple pie, not my favorite, I prefer cherry, and the fakest smile I'd ever seen. "Hi Kate, I thought I'd stop by and see how you're doing," she said, as if she hadn't been part of the social media mob attacking me in weeks. Against my better judgment, I allowed her in. She placed the pie on the counter and gazed around my home as if she were taking inventory. "I wanted to apologize," she began, her voice full of fake sweetness. "Things got a little heated, and I realize now that we were wrong to push you like that. You've worked hard for this house, and I should have respected your decisions." Something about her tone did not sit well with me. Then she launched into a lengthy speech about how pleased she was of me and how the stress of Anna's condition had caused everyone to behave out. "But that's no excuse," she added, giving me a sad, almost imploring expression. "I was thinking maybe we could have a fresh start. I'd love to come over again sometime, maybe bring Anna and the kids. It'd be nice for everyone to see your new place." So there it was. The actual motive behind her visit. After she went, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Later that night, I recognized what was bothering me. She'd spent an unusual amount of time inspecting my locks and inquiring about my relocation timeline. My suspicions were verified when I returned home from work today and discovered my spare key missing, the one I had mistakenly left on the kitchen counter during my mother's stay. My phone vibrated just as I was processing this. My next-door neighbor sent me a text. "Hey, I noticed some folks trying to peep into your windows last night. It looked like a couple with children. Is everything okay?" I quickly phoned a locksmith to replace all of the locks. I'll also install security cameras first thing tomorrow morning. I can't believe they would go this low, but I'm also not surprised. I've stopped answering phone calls and texts from anyone in my family. Mom's apology was obviously simply a reconnaissance operation, and I'm done giving them the benefit of the doubt. The disturbing issue is that I don't think they'll stop. Dad left a voicemail stating, "This isn't over, kid. Family has to stick together, whether you like it or not." At this point, it seems like a threat rather than a concern. I'm currently documenting everything, every text, voicemail, and suspicious incident. My gut tells me I'll need this record shortly. I will keep you updated if anything else happens. Reddit, thank you for all of your support. It's incredibly helpful to have folks confirm that I'm not insane for demanding fundamental boundaries. Update 3. Hello Reddit, I never imagined I'd be posting this update, but here we are. What happened today has left me absolutely disturbed, and I am still trying to digest everything. I went out this morning to conduct some basic tasks, such as food shopping and picking up a box from the post office. When I arrived home at noon, I saw something peculiar. Anna's SUV was parked directly in front of my house. My heart sunk immediately. I approached the door, fumbling with my keys, and heard voices within. Anna, Josh, and the kids were at my place. The atmosphere inside was complete mayhem. Sophia and Lucas were sprawled on my couch, surrounded by munchies and toys. Noah was toddling about my living room, munching on a throw cushion. Josh was in the kitchen, looting my refrigerator, and Anna was in the sunroom, rearranging my furniture as if she were on HGTV. "What the hell's going on?" I managed to reply, my voice shaking from fury and disbelief. Anna looked up, unaffected. "Oh hey, Kate, we figured it'd be easier to just move in while you were out." I glanced at her, trying to understand what she had just said. "Move in?" "Mom gave us the key," she explained, nodding to the kitchen counter. "We truly needed the space, and your home is ideal for us. It could have been bigger if you'd listened to us, but we'll make it happen. Josh can now have an office instead of bickering." Instead of arguing, I took out my phone and dialed 911. "Seriously?" Anna replied, her voice full of incredulity. "Are you calling the cops on your own family?" "Watch me." When the cops arrived, Anna and Josh attempted to argue that because we were family, this was not a true break-in. The officers wouldn't have it. They informed them that they were trespassing and needed to leave immediately. Anna began crying, saying she didn't realize it was such a huge deal, and Josh muttered something about my being selfish as they packed away their belongings, including the goodies they had plundered from my cupboard. After they went, one of the officers approached me and asked if I wanted to file charges. I considered it for a time before deciding against it, as long as they stayed away from my land. The officer nodded, saying they'd file a report if anything more happened. I've already phoned a locksmith to change the locks again, and I'll have a security system put in tomorrow. I've also hired a lawyer to create an official cease and desist letter to deliver to my parents, Anna and Josh. The letter describes everything they've done and expresses that if they continue to harass me, I will not hesitate to take legal action. I still can't believe my own sister felt this was appropriate and my mother gave them the key. I don't even have words for it. I will keep you updated if anything else happens, but perhaps this is the final straw. I am done giving them opportunities. Blood is not always thicker than water, particularly when it is dangerous. Update 4. I'd like to begin by thanking everyone who has followed this wild trip. After all of your comments and support, I believe I owe you a final report on the issue. Yes, I mean final, because I have formally severed all relations with my family. First came the guilt-inducing phone calls. Every single relative, including those I hadn't spoken to in years, began phoning me. My aunt, who hardly recognized my existence growing up, left a voicemail that read, "How can you do this to your sister? Family has to stick together." Then, my parents launched a smear campaign in our town. Mom shared photos of my house on Facebook. I'm not sure how she obtained them, with sentiments like, "It's so sad when someone forgets where they came from. Family sacrifices so much for you, and this is how they repay you." People who didn't know the complete scenario left comments accusing me of being ungrateful and selfish. Last week, Anna took it to a new level. She arrived at my business at lunch hour with all 3 children. I was in a meeting when our receptionist called to report that my sister was crying in the lobby and raising a disturbance. By the time I arrived, half of my coworkers had gathered to witness Anna theatrically tell how I was leaving her children homeless. I drew her aside and ordered her to leave. She responded by letting the kids run around the office while yelling about how I had plenty of space but was too selfish to share. Security had to take them out, and I had to have an embarrassing chat with my manager about keeping my personal concerns out of the office. The final straw arrived yesterday. My parents scheduled an intervention at their home. They informed my grandmother that I was suffering a mental breakdown and required family support. When I declined to attend, they attempted to have a local preacher visit my house to educate me on my family commitments. After consulting with my attorney, I took serious legal action. I applied for a restraining order against Anna and Josh, citing all of their harassment and the break-in. My lawyer also issued legal cease and desist letters to my parents regarding their social media posts and harassment. I've established a comprehensive security system that includes cameras and motion sensors, as well as changed my phone number and email address, which I exclusively share with trusted friends and my job. All of my social media accounts are now set to rigorous privacy settings, banning not only my family but also their friends and anyone who may feed them information. The most weird aspect of all of this is that they still appear to believe they are correct. My mother sent me one final email before I banned her, stating I was hurting her heart and that she had raised me better than this. She still doesn't get that this isn't about being mean or selfish. It is about setting basic boundaries and respecting oneself. But, you know what? For the first time in my life, I actually feel free. My house is just as I want it. I've started planting a garden in my backyard, which I'd always wanted to do but never had the space for. I'm making friends with my neighbors, those who don't report back to my family. I even adopted a cat, who is now snoozing in my sunny window. She is also not obligated to share her space with anyone she does not want to. Last weekend, I had a little housewarming celebration with some of my coworkers. We sipped wine and cheese on my lovely small porch, and no one said I needed more room or questioned my life choices. It was simply normal, joyful, and serene. I know some people may read this and think I'm callous for cutting off my family, but after 27 years of being treated as a backup plan, an ATM, and a solution to everyone else's issues, I'm finally putting myself first. Recognizing that family is more than simply blood, it's about respect, limits, and mutual support, can be the healthiest thing you can do. What about the house that sparked all of this drama? It's become my haven. Every morning, I wake up in my house, decorated exactly how I want it, with no one else's expectations to meet but my own, and I know I made the correct decision. Thank you to everyone on Reddit who has supported me on this trip. Your comments, guidance, and shared experiences helped me keep going when I was doubting myself. To those who shared similar stories, you helped me realize I wasn't alone in demanding fundamental boundaries. And to those who are now suffering with similar familial problems, remain strong. You deserve to live your life on your own terms. I probably won't be updating my tale anymore, partially because I've cut off all communication with my family and partly because I'm ready to go on with my life. But I'll still be on Reddit, possibly assisting others who are in similar positions. Thank you all again. Your encouragement meant more than you'll ever realize. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you. My rich mother-in-law, Karen, has treated me like a maid for many years. Now, I have stopped tolerating and prepared a perfect plan for revenge on her. Alex's words cut through the clatter of dishes like a keen scalpel. Alara, bring me some tea now. I halted, my hands dipped in soapy water. Hold on, I'm doing the dishes. What? His tone was incredulous and impatient. Stop that, and bring me the tea right away. Can't you obey simple commands? But, I began, only to be interrupted. What a useless wife you are. Make me some sweet coffee, said another voice. Mrs. Whitmore, my mother-in-law, spoke from the living room. She sat there, munching a slice of cake she had grabbed from the fridge, her eyes gleaming with malice. I sighed and looked at the stack of dishes. There are so many. Leave them for later. Just do what we say, useless wife, Alex's voice hissed, each syllable hurting. I was Alara, a 28-year-old working mother whose life felt more like a jail than a home. Married at 23, I had hoped for love and friendship, but instead found myself in the hands of Alex and his domineering mother. Our 4-year-old son was the only bright spot in an otherwise dark existence. We lived in Alex's parents' house, a decision foisted on me under the premise of caring for Mrs. Whitmore after my father-in-law died. Initially, I sympathized with her alleged anguish, but it quickly became evident that I was nothing more than a part in her cruel game of home oppression. Cooking, cleaning, and working just weren't enough. My attempts were treated with derision, and my meals were either left untouched or sharply ridiculed. The stir-fry is so half-hearted, Mrs. Whitmore would remark. Cook it properly from scratch. I'm busy and can only do simple things, I'd say, trying to maintain a calm voice. That's why I hate backtalk from my daughter-in-law, she quipped. Cook from scratch. Why don't you cook? You are a good cook, correct? I risked to react once and soon regretted it. Why would I do housekeeping with you here? She responded coldly and dismissively. Are you out of your mind? Their brutality grew with time, progressing from harsh words to a chilling quiet. They began to entirely disregard me, as if I were a ghost in my own home. My presence, which was previously underestimated, now appeared completely invisible. 5 years passed in this suffocating environment. Alex and I turned 35 and 33 respectively. Our son developed, but the unpleasant atmosphere in the house remained constant. My mother-in-law, now 63, appeared to thrive on my suffering. One evening, as I trudged home from work, a heavy revelation hit me. They saw my existence as meaningless. I was a shadow, unnoticed and unheard. The only voice that acknowledged me was my son's. The idea of losing even that minor recognition was agonizing. When I returned home, I started cooking right away, hoping to lift my spirits. I made mapo tofu, fried chicken, and a stir-fry with bell peppers and pork, attempting to bring some regularity to our dinner. Bring me the mayo, Alex said unexpectedly, breaking his long silence. Sure, here you are, I said, handing him the mayonnaise. His first words to me in ages were not thanks or discussion, but rather a command. It was the last straw, the limit of my patience and tolerance. Mrs. Whitmore demanded, clean the toilet? What? Now? I was shocked. Yes, now, she demanded, her voice full of hate. I snapped back, unable to suppress my annoyance. Don't say such a thing while we're eating. It's nasty, just like your heart, she said. Our dispute immediately escalated, with Alex interjecting and demanding that I apologize to his mother. But I refused, standing firm for the first time in years. The conflict reached its climax, and a conclusion formed within me. I needed to get out of this toxic environment, not just for myself, but also for my baby. I returned to my room, my determination stiffening. I downloaded divorce papers, completed them, and slapped them in front of Alex. His amazement was evident, but I felt just icy determination. I'm filing these, I announced, my voice firm. As I stood there, looking at my husband's puzzled expression, I realized I had finally stepped out of the shadows. It was time to regain my life. The days after I declared my divorce were a blur of frigid stares and stinging remarks, but in the midst of the chaos, I discovered an unexpected sense of freedom. Mrs. Whitmore looked at the food I was serving one evening with distaste. You call this food? Even a child cooks better. I bit my tongue, concentrating on my son's happy expression. Eat up, sweetheart. I made your favorite tonight, Alex added in, his voice full of sarcasm. Oh, playing the perfect mother now, are we? What a joke. I could feel my rage rising, but I held my cool. I'm just trying to make a nice dinner for our son. Mrs. Whitmore snorted. Don't act high and mighty, you're just a burden in this house. The tension around the table was apparent. Alex's attempts to insult me grew more intense. So, Alara, have you thought about how you'll survive after the divorce? You can barely keep a house, let alone your own life. I stared him directly in the eyes. I have been supporting this family for years. I'm not worried about taking care of myself and our son. His smirk faded somewhat, and a spark of concern appeared on his face. Mrs. Whitmore was quick to intercede. Don't be absurd. You need us more than we need you. The talk drifted to finances, which they typically avoided. You do realize that without my salary, this household would crumble, I said to myself rather than to them. Mrs. Whitmore sneered. We'd manage, we don't need your pity money. But Alex's silence spoke volumes. He understood the truth. They would be in serious financial trouble if I did not provide a living. Their behavior deteriorated during the next few days. Mrs. Whitmore alternated between trying to sweet-talk me into staying and shouting insults when I refused. Alex, on the other hand, appeared confused, his arrogance eroding as the reality of his financial dependency became clear. One afternoon, I overheard a talk between them that chilled me to the core. She can't just leave us like this, Alex growled. We need her money. Mrs. Whitmore's response was chilly and calculating. Do not worry. I have a plan. We'll make her life so unpleasant that she won't want to leave. Hearing their genuine objectives exposed was a revelation. They did not care about me or our son. It was all about power and wealth. That night, as I lay in bed, an idea began to emerge in my head. If they wanted a fight, I'd give them one. But it would not be fought with words or trivial disputes. I'd strike them where it hurts the most. Their pride and their pocketbook. The following morning, I began putting my plan into action. I contacted a lawyer, a bright, no-nonsense woman who was highly recommended. I want a divorce, and I want to make sure they don't get a penny more than they deserve, I informed the woman. She nodded, her eyes bright with determination. We'll make sure of it. You've been the only breadwinner, correct? We'll make use of that. My resolve got stronger with each passing day. I began documenting everything: insults, financial manipulation, and even little grievances. It was time to turn the tables. It was time to accept the repercussions of their deeds. As I prepared my case, I felt a sense of empowerment. For the first time in years, I felt like I had power over my own fate. The shades of scorn were slowly lifting, revealing a new dawn. As the divorce proceedings began, the mood in the house became more caustic. Yet, with each passing day, my panic faded, replaced by a steely resolve. Mrs. Whitmore decided to try a new strategy one evening. Alara, dear, why don't we forget all this nasty business? You know we're family. Her comments were insincere. I met her stare unwaveringly. Family doesn't treat each other the way you've treated me. Alex, who had been silently watching, scoffed. Oh, playing the victim now? You're not as innocent as you pretend to be. I felt a wave of rage, but I kept my voice composed. I'm not playing anything, Alex. I'm just no longer willing to be your scapegoat. As is typically the case, the subject turned to finances. You think you can just take our son and leave? How will you support him? Alex was skeptical. I grinned with a tiny, confident curl of my lips. I've been supporting this family for years. I think I can manage. Mrs. Whitmore turned her gaze into a sneer. You're nothing without us. You'll come crawling back. But their remarks no longer had force over me. I recognized my worth and knew the truth. The following day, I met with my lawyer again. She outlined the strategy clearly. We'll expose their financial dependency on you. It will play a crucial role in the custody battle and the division of assets. I nodded, feeling vindicated. The law was on my side, and I was prepared to fight back. At home, the tension had reached a boiling point. Mrs. Whitmore's attempts to discredit me got increasingly desperate. You think you're so smart, she sneered one evening. But you're just a cold-hearted woman abandoning your family. I stared her directly in the eyes. Number, I'm a woman who's finally standing up for herself. Alex leapt in, his voice full of fury. You'll regret this. You can't survive without me. However, his threats fell on deaf ears. I was done being intimidated. As the days passed, my preparations for the court battle became more intense. I obtained financial accounts, documented their harsh remarks, and gathered evidence of their negligence. One afternoon, as I was arranging my documents, my kid approached me. Mom, are we going to be okay? His voice was soft and hesitant. I drew him into an embrace, feeling a flash of protectiveness. Yes, sweetheart. We're going to be just fine. We're leaving this place, and we're going to start a new, happy life, just you and me. His arms tightened around me, and I knew I'd made the correct decision. I was fighting not just for myself, but also for my son's future. The court hearing date approached, bringing with it the prospect of impending freedom. I was prepared to confront Alex and Mrs. Whitmore and put an end to their tyranny and emotional abuse. I was ready to take back my life and give my son the peace and happiness he deserved. It was time for justice, and I was determined to see it delivered. The court hearing day arrived, and I was filled with both dread and determination. I felt a sense of surrealism when I sat across from Alex and Mrs. Whitmore in court. This was the moment when everything changed. The proceedings started with frigid formality. Alex's lawyer portrayed him as a dedicated spouse and parent battling under unjust accusations. Mrs. Whitmore played the sorrowful mother-in-law who had been wronged by her ungrateful daughter-in-law. However, their performance was apparent, and their lies were flimsy. When my turn came, I spoke clearly and steadily. I've been the only provider for this family for years. My husband's unemployment and his mother's manipulative behavior have been continual sources of stress. Alex intervened, his voice tinged with faint hurt. Alara, how can you say such things? I've always backed you. I turned to him, my stare steadfast. Alex, support is more than words. It's about deeds, and your actions have only demonstrated selfishness and harshness. The judge listened closely as I presented my evidence, which included financial accounts, audio recordings of their verbal abuse, and testimony from neighbors who witnessed their behavior. The fact was undeniable. As the evidence accumulated, Alex's facade began to collapse. Mrs. Whitmore's poise shattered, and her innocence slipped away. The courtroom was quiet, the air thick with anxiety. Then came the realization that sealed their doom. My lawyer submitted photos and documentation confirming Alex's adultery and Mrs. Whitmore's clandestine affair with Mr. Harwood, a wealthy neighbor. Murmurs broke out in the courtroom as the photographs of them in compromising postures were shown. Their lie was exposed for all to see. Alex's face became ashen, his eyes wide with surprise. Mrs. Whitmore's face twisted into rage, and her hands trembled. You compromised our privacy? She yelled, her voice shrill. I glanced at her, my voice steady yet forceful. I revealed the truth, which you both had been hiding for far too long. The court shouted for order, but the harm was already done. Their credibility was shattered, and their lies were revealed in the bright light of the courtroom. As the session concluded, the judge's conclusion was apparent. I was given full custody of our son, and a fair distribution of assets was ordered. Alex and Mrs. Whitmore were left with just their destroyed reputations. Walking out of the courtroom, I felt a weight lifted from my shoulders. The years of deception and emotional assault had finally ended. I had confronted my oppressors and emerged victorious. But the finest moment was when my son raced into my arms outside the courthouse, his face beaming with relief and joy. We did it, Mom, he exclaimed, his voice full of delight. Yes, we did, I said, holding him close. We're free now. This is only the beginning for us. As we walked away hand in hand, I realized this was more than simply a personal win. It was a victory for everybody who has ever been made to feel little, helpless, or unworthy. It represented a victory for truth and justice. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one full of optimism and the promise of a better future. The court verdict had an immediate and chaotic impact. The story of Alex and Mrs. Whitmore's deception spread like wildfire, ruining their reputations in our little neighborhood. They could no longer hide behind their facade of respectability. In the days following the verdict, I concentrated on rebuilding my life with my kid, but I couldn't deny the gratification of knowing Alex and Mrs. Whitmore were facing the repercussions of their decisions. One evening, as I was making dinner, I had an unexpected visitor. Mrs. Harwood, Mr. Harwood's wife, appeared, her eyes crimson from unshed tears. "Alara, I've heard about everything. I can't believe what Sylvia, Mrs. Whitmore did," she exclaimed, her voice breaking. I invited her in and offered a cup of tea. As we sat at the kitchen table, she expressed her sadness. I trusted her as a neighbor and friend. And to think she was having an affair with my husband. Her voice trembled, so I listened and offered words of comfort. Mrs. Whitmore's actions had clearly caused far more damage than she had planned. The next day, I saw Alex in town. He was a shell of his former self, his arrogance replaced with a defeated expression. "Alara, please. Can we speak?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I paused, facing him. "What's there to talk about, Alex?" He fidgeted, unwilling to meet my gaze. I apologize for everything. I didn't understand how much I relied on you and your strength." His apologies, however late, reflected the shift in power. He had lost everything, his dignity, his home, and his family, and in that loss, he had finally admitted his own flaws. Mrs. Whitmore, however, received the greatest criticism. Her affair with Mr. Harwood had not only wrecked her reputation but also resulted in legal problems. Mrs. Harwood sought a divorce and sued her for alienation of affection. I learned of Mrs. Whitmore's dilemma from neighbors. Whispers and tales depicted a lady undone by her own acts. She had become an outsider, rejected by individuals she had previously considered friends. I saw her at the grocery store one day, hurrying through the aisles with downcast eyes. Our paths touched, and for a brief moment, our eyes met. The sight of hatred and defeat in her eyes was undeniable. "You did this to me," she said under her breath as she walked by. I watched Sylvia leave, her figure slowly fading as she hurried away, her eyes filled with resentment. I felt a strange mix of pity for her and vindication for myself. "No, Sylvia," I whispered under my breath. "You did this to yourself." The tides of justice had finally shifted. Everything they had done to me, all the lies, the manipulation, the emotional torment, had come full circle. The consequences of their actions were now irreversible. I could see them struggling, living in the aftermath of the deceit they had carefully cultivated over the years. Their false facade had shattered, and now they were forced to face the reality of what they had become. As I watched them suffer through the consequences of their own making, I felt a sense of calm satisfaction. But it wasn't just about them getting what they deserved. The real reward was in the freedom I had gained. The best form of retribution, I realized, was not in revenge, but in living a life full of peace and strength, free from the toxicity and harmful influence they had cast upon me for so long. My focus shifted back to what truly mattered, the future I was building with my son. We were free now, free from the prison they had trapped me in for all those years. I had broken free, and now, I was living the life I had always dreamed of. This wasn't just a story of revenge or victory. It was a story of liberation. It was a powerful testament to my strength and resilience. I had taken control of my destiny, broken the chains of abuse, and freed myself from the tyranny of their manipulation. As I looked ahead, I knew that the future was bright, and the best was yet to come. I was no longer a prisoner to their cruelty. I was free, and the world was mine to conquer. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you. My best friend's baby shower turned